Hello, everybody. Good morning. This is Dave Sandoval, and today I'm going to be talking about an emerging virus, one that's getting a lot of attention in the news. And I was going to take a second now and share this to some of our groups. So give me 1 second, and I'm going to do just that. I was about to, and then I wasn't able to. So if any of you would like to share this to one of your groups or one of your pages, I would appreciate that. And again, this is Dave Sandoval. I see we have a few people checking in, and we're just a few minutes from getting started. So I want to thank you for joining me and my co-host this morning. Albert doesn't say much, but he keeps whispering in my ear and keeps me on point. So the bottom line is that in just a couple of minutes, we're going to get started. And we're going to be talking about this thing called the coronavirus, the Wuhan coronavirus, and other coronaviruses. And we're going to compare it to, we're going to ask ourselves, how worried should we be? And what precautions can we take? And how does this compare to other similar things that we've encountered in our lifetime? So appreciate all of you being with me today. Looks like we got a nice group, and let's see, we are just about 2 minutes from getting started. So I'm going to go grab me a little cup of water and take a sip, and then we're going to get started in just a minute. Okay, well, feel free to invite others. I'm going to take a minute and share this to a couple of pages. Let's see, technology challenged as I am, but let's see. And okay, well, I guess I'll just learn to share it later. I should have shared it before the comments started, because the little button for sharing is now buried underneath all of your awesome comments. So thank you, Lucy, and thank you, Eileen, and thank you, Haley, and looks like we have Esty, and who else do we have there? Freddie, good to have you there. And we're just about that time. I think we're 1 minute away, and we're going to get started promptly at 9, because that's what I promised to do. And so, again, my name's David Sandoval, and if you want to just take 1 minute to share this or invite others to tag people so that they'll see it later, now is a great time to do that. Hey, Adriana, thanks for joining us. Hey, Jamie, thank you as well. Randy, Jimmy, appreciate you all checking in, and appreciate you muting yourselves as well. So here we go. It is that time. Hello, everybody. My name is David Sandoval. I'm one of the owners and founders of Purium Health Products. And above all else, I consider myself an educator and a formulator. And the education part comes because I love to learn. I love to learn. And when I learn fascinating things, I want to share them. That might be a little bit like each of you. And when I see people are concerned, when I see people are worried, when I see people are, I'm not going to say uneducated, I'm going to say uninformed, in some ways you could have, I guess, misinformation. And I don't like that. I like people to have as much knowledge as they can. And with that knowledge, I want them to make really awesome and educated decisions for themselves, their families, and the people that they love. So let's just start out right away and jump into this. We have this thing called the coronavirus. This particular version is called the Wuhan coronavirus. And so what is a coronavirus? Well, a coronavirus is a virus that starts out in animals, typically wild animals or caged animals that are sold in markets, that are sold in small markets where people come to shop, much like we consider a farmer's market, but to a little more higher level, perhaps in some cities like China and in Asia, where these markets might include wild or semi-domesticated animals. And the virus starts in the animal and is transferred to a human. Now, typically, once a human catches a virus from an animal, it doesn't transfer that to another human. Okay, typically it does not. But in some rare cases, those viruses will mutate. And what's in a recombination, they recombine themselves, and human to human transfer becomes more prevalent. And when that happens, human health can be at risk. Now, the first documented cases of these coronaviruses, because they've been happening obviously as long as humans and animals have been intermingled, but the first cases of coronaviruses, what I call the super coronaviruses that we became aware of, were MERS and SARS. And MERS is just short for Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome, since this originated in the Middle East. And SARS was called Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, SARS, Severe Acute Respiratory Syndrome, and MERS, Middle Eastern Respiratory Syndrome. And these versions were some of the most prevalent. They were the fastest spreading. They killed the most people. And so when people are exposed to coronaviruses, then they typically feel like they have a flu. It is a very common thing. In fact, most human beings at some point in their lifetime will be exposed to some type of coronavirus. It's only when that coronavirus rises to the level as what I'm calling, a super CV, where they start passing from human to human rapidly and people start to die. That's when we become concerned. And so what are some of the symptoms? Well, you might get a fever, you might get a cough. It feels a little bit like the flu, except for it is really an upper respiratory disease. That's why they call it, that's why, the MERS and the SARS, they're respiratory symptoms that are most prevalent. And so if you have these symptoms, okay, if you and you're worried, I want to put it in perspective. MERS was typically, I think one of the first that we discovered. It affected 2,500 people ultimately. And out of those 2,500, about 700 to 800 died. Okay, the numbers aren't exact, but about 700 to 800 died. It spread very slowly. It didn't spread quickly at all. Now, SARS, on the other hand, spread very quickly. SARS spread very quickly, and it also killed about 700 to 800 people, but it affected 8,000. So MERS affected 2,500 and killed about 700 to 800 people. SARS affected about 8,000 and killed between 700 and 800 people over the course of its affecting humankind in about 37 countries. Okay, so how is this version different? Is the Wuhan version of the coronavirus different than SARS, different than MERS? Well, in its intensity, it does seem to be different. The intensity is more pneumonia type symptoms versus just a cough and fever. And oftentimes it could be accompanied with organ failure. And so again, it's more severe. The intensity of the Wuhan virus does appear to be more severe. Now let's compare the deaths. Well, there have been, about 80 deaths out of 2,700 people who have been affected. Okay, so about 80 deaths out of 2,700 people who have been affected so far. So let's put that in perspective, okay? Imagine if this was a city in the United States, and imagine that in 1 month, okay, 80 people had died. We might be concerned if that was in just one single city, if 80 people had died. Now, this is a very large city, but nonetheless, in one city. So let's put it in perspective, okay? How worried should we be? Well, let's talk about the flu. In 2018, 900,000 people were affected by the flu. 900,000. And like I said, only 2,500 or so far, or 2,700, were affected and 8,000 were affected by the most severe coronavirus outbreak in history. That means fewer than 10,000 people have been affected by coronavirus, to our knowledge, and again, 900,000, nearly 1 million people were affected by influenza in 2018 alone, and 80,000 died. 80,000 people died. That's like, nearly 6,700 people a month dying. So we have to put that in perspective. We do. So let's not be scared. Let's not get ourselves into a fear modality. Fear is used to control you. Okay? So they're going to hype this up on the news. They're going to tell you need to be afraid, need to take precautions. No, you do not need to be afraid, but yes, you need to take precautions. Who are the most susceptible? Who are the most likely to be affected by this? Well, there are people with poor immune systems, period. People with the weakest immune systems are the ones who are most severely affected. People who are already sick are the most likely to get even sicker, if you would. But people with poor immune systems are the most susceptible. So I'm not going to use this as an opportunity to, pitch a Purium product, but I will remind you that we need to build our immunity, and the best way to do that is through gut health. Okay? And when you have something like this, antibiotics do not work, flu vaccines do not work, antiviral drugs do not work against coronavirus. Okay? The best hope that you have is to slow down the replication of a virus. The best hope you have is to stop those viruses from agglomerating into colonies where they gain strength. And that's why I personally always keep ViraSure in my medicine chest. That's why I take Biomedic daily, because gut health is key to our immune system. And so I'm not saying go out and buy those two products right now. This is no reason to panic. I'm just saying that those with healthy immune systems and those with an answer to viral infections are going to be the healthiest, the ones who are most likely to not have a problem with this. And I want to remind you that once a virus enters your body, it can never leave. You can never kill it entirely. The best you could hope for is that your immune system suppresses it and pushes it into your spinal fluid where it will not and cannot affect you. So my name's David Sandoval. I'm here to tell you that don't be afraid. Don't be led by fear. Be educated. Use knowledge as your shield against misinformation. And of course, build your immune system. I would advise that no matter what we were talking about. Of course, take Biomedic daily. I would advise that no matter what we're talking about. But if you're worried about the flu or coronavirus or any virus, keep some natural defenses around. Whether it be, our ViraSure, or whether you keep oil of oregano around, or whatever your choice is, aloe vera. There are natural solutions, but fear is never the answer. So my name's David Sandoval. I want to thank you for tuning in with me. I want to thank you for sharing this information and telling people to relax. Everything's going to be okay. God bless. Appreciate you all. Until next time.